My father-in-law is 59 this year, yet he married a girl who had just turned 18. The whole neighborhood whispered about it, but he remained completely calm, while she almost vanished from the outside world. Since the day she became a daughter-in-law in this family, I have not seen her step outside the gate of the villa even once. She does not go to the supermarket, does not stroll around town, does not receive guests. Only the light in the bedroom stays on all day long. At first, I thought she might be shy, or simply not used to the way my husband's family lives. But as time went by, I felt more and more that something was wrong. Then one day, I decided to drop by without warning. What I saw behind that door completely changed the way I thought about the man both my husband and I still called Dad. That evening, David and I returned to the estate in Beverly Hills to have dinner with his father, Robert, who had just married a girl of only 18 named Mia. The dining room was large but cold, and the yellow light spreading over the dark wood made the already tense atmosphere feel even more stifling. We sat separated by a table so long that we had to lean forward to clearly see each other's faces. Even though I had prepared myself, I still could not help feeling uncomfortable under the heavy silence pressing down on us. I was the first to speak, trying to keep a calm expression. "Dad, how has Mia been lately? My family has invited you both over for dinner several times, but she has not come." Robert did not look up. He kept his head down, cutting the beef on his plate with a cold, deliberate motion. His voice dropped, each word clearly edged. "She does not like noisy places. You all should leave her alone." I tightened my hand slightly around the knife, then tried to smile so the situation would not grow even more tense. But I feel Mia is still very young. Staying inside the house all day is really pitiful. What if this weekend I take her out shopping or for a coffee, just for a change of atmosphere? Immediately, Robert glared straight at me. His hand slammed down on the table, making my glass of water tremble and almost spill onto the white tablecloth. "I told you to leave her alone. She is my wife. She does not need anyone to pity her. Mind your own business." I was stunned into silence for a few seconds. I looked over at David, waiting for him to speak up, but David quickly raised his hand, signaling me to be quiet, then spoke softly but firmly. "Luna, stop. Dad is right. Let us not bother him and Mia anymore." I pressed my lips together and swallowed all the questions that had not yet left my mouth. Once again, the heavy silence settled over the entire room. We left the estate when night had fully fallen. I was driving, and David sat silently in the passenger seat. The long road and the blurred street lights sliding past the windshield did nothing to ease the anger inside me. Do you really not see anything strange? An 18-year-old girl, married to a 59-year-old man, then locked in that gilded cage all day. She is not allowed to meet anyone, not allowed to go out. Is that a marriage or a hostage situation? David let out a sigh, his voice weary as if he had heard this line far too many times. "My father is old now. Maybe he just wants some privacy. Stop overthinking it." I glanced at him, no longer able to keep the gentle tone from before. Overthinking. David, I am a woman. I have instincts. Who marries a young wife and then hides her away like a deadly secret? I do not just find it strange, I find it frightening. Or are you afraid of jeopardizing that huge fortune your father has, so you choose to stay this quiet? David turned to me, his voice suddenly sharp like a knife. "Luna." That was out of line. "Do not poke your nose into my family's money." I did not answer right away. His words felt like a slap across my face. The silence in the car stretched on until we finally arrived home. That night, my apartment was unusually quiet. David was fast asleep in the bedroom, his breathing steady and carefree as if nothing tense had ever happened between us. I lay awake, thinking for a long time. David's words still echoed in my head, cold and firm. He had told me to leave everything alone, that it was an adult matter, a matter of his family. But something inside me kept pushing harder and harder. I felt as if I did nothing, something terrible would happen. I whispered to myself, my voice almost no louder than a breath. "All right, if you do not dare to act, then I will. I have to know what is really happening in that house." I opened my contacts, and my finger stopped at the name Sarah, my father-in-law's longtime assistant. A shrewd woman, discreet, and always careful to keep her distance. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice so it sounded as gentle and natural as possible before I hit call. "Hello, Sarah. This is Luna." "No, nothing urgent at all. I just wanted to ask about Mr. Robert's business schedule this week so I can arrange a suitable time for a family get-together." On the other end of the line, Sarah's voice came through, low and brisk as always. "Oh, he is flying to New York for a conference on Thursday. Thank you so much, I understand." I hung up and looked at the clock on the wall. Wednesday, close to midnight, so he would be gone tomorrow. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I got ready very early and did not say anything to David. The California sunlight filtered through the white curtains, illuminating the determination in my heart. I started the car, and the road to Beverly Hills suddenly felt longer than usual. I stood in front of the tall iron gate of Robert's estate, my palms damp with sweat. I pressed the doorbell. Once, twice, then a third time. The soft sound of the mechanism rang out, and the gate slowly slid open. Mia appeared. Her face was as pale as someone who had been ill, dark circles under her eyes, her lips drained of color. She looked at me with a mix of surprise and fear, as if I were an uninvited intruder. "Hi, Mia. The weather is beautiful today, so I thought I would stop by to visit you for a bit." She jolted and stepped half a pace back, her voice trembling. "Luna? No, you cannot. Robert, my husband, is not home. Please leave, I am begging you." I moved forward and put my hand on the door just as she was about to close it, my voice turning firm even as I tried to stay calm. "I know he is not home. I know he has flown to New York. Mia, tell me, what is going on? What are you afraid of?" She looked at me, her lips moving, but no sound coming out. When I tried to step inside, she hurriedly raised her arm to block me. In that instant, the thin sleeve of her shirt slipped down. The sunlight fell across her wrist and revealed bruises clearly shaped like an adult's fingers. I was stunned. I grabbed her wrist, my voice bursting out in horror. "My God, what is this? Who did this to you? Was it Robert?" Mia jerked her hand back, tears spilling over. Her voice tightened, panicked and full of pain. "No. No one did anything. I fell down the stairs myself." "Go away, please, just go." Then she shoved the door shut. The sound of it slamming echoed dry and sharp, like a blade cutting through the already suffocating air. I stood there with my hand still resting on the cold door, my heart reeling. But fortunately, before Mia pushed me out, I had managed to attach a tiny camera to a flower pot inside the villa. I replayed Mia's answer in my mind. She said she had fallen. No one falls and ends up with bruises shaped like a hand like that. Everything in my head was spinning. Robert, the man I had once respected, what was he hiding in that house? It was not just confinement. He was doing something far more terrifying. That evening, the lights were on in my kitchen. I stood at the sink, my hands still smelling of dish soap. The clatter of plates sounded dry and brittle in the quiet. David sat at the table with a glass of water in his hand, his eyes avoiding mine. I turned halfway toward him and looked at him. My voice could no longer stay controlled. "You do not believe me? Then explain to me what the hand-shaped bruises on Mia's wrist are. Did she squeeze her own wrist to make them?" David set his glass down hard on the table, the sound of glass hitting wood cracking through the room. He was almost shouting. "Enough, Luna. You keep insisting on your own theories. Maybe she tripped. Maybe it was from working out. Why are you so determined to pin a crime on my father?" I turned fully to him, my eyes burning, my voice breaking with anger. "Tripped. David, are you kidding me?" I saw her eyes. That was the look of an animal trapped in a cage, full of fear and despair. "Do you trust your wife? Or do you only trust the polished ghost of your family's reputation?" David looked at me for a long moment, then turned away. He walked out of the room, his voice rough with anger. "I do not want to talk anymore. This conversation ends here." The door closed, leaving me standing alone in the cold kitchen. 3 days later, just as the sun slipped behind the high-rise buildings, I sat in my office in front of the computer screen. The glow from the monitor reflected on my face, and I was so tense I did not dare to blink. Earlier, I had secretly placed a small camera in the bushes at Robert's house. I did not want to trust only my instincts, but now I knew I had to watch to the end. A door clicked softly behind me. David walked in, his voice as cold as it had been the other day. "Luna, come down for dinner. What are you watching?" I did not answer. I simply pointed at the screen, my voice unsteady. "See for yourself. See your father's happy home." David looked up. On the screen, Robert was dragging Mia from inside the house out into the yard. The young woman shrank into herself, her hands trying to shield her face. Robert's voice came through in the video, low and frightening. "What do you think you are? You little brat? You think I keep you around for show? I give you food and clothes. You should be grateful." Mia dropped to her knees, her hands trembling, her voice faint. "I am sorry. I know I was wrong. I will not do it again." Robert bent down and shoved her hard against the stone wall behind her. His voice was like a beast roaring. "Silence. You do not get to call me anything. You are only a tool. Remember that well." David stood motionless, his face drained of color, his eyes wide and fixed. His hand tightened into a fist, the tendons standing out across his knuckles. He drew a long breath but could not form words. "Turn it off. Turn it off, Luna." I turned off the video, and the light in the room suddenly softened. I faced him and looked straight at him. "Do you believe me now? Your father is not only keeping her captive, he is torturing her, body and mind." Before night fully fell, David had watched the entire footage from the camera I had secretly placed at the gate of his father's estate. In that video, Robert, the man David had once respected and trusted, appeared no different from a predator tormenting its prey. He dragged Mia into the middle of the yard, shouted and cursed, then slammed her into the wall with such force that the sound of the impact made even me shudder. When the video ended, David said nothing. He sat frozen in the chair, his eyes empty, his lips pressed tight. His hand trembled as he set his glass on the table, as if every idea he had of his father had just shattered. A long moment passed before David spoke. His voice was hoarse, caught in his throat as if gripped tight. "We have to get Mia out of there. Immediately." I nodded, but we knew we could not act rashly. Robert controlled everything inside that house. Any misstep could put Mia in even greater danger. Fortunately, I had already learned his travel schedule through his assistant, Sarah. "Tomorrow, Robert would fly to France for a 3-day conference. That was our only chance to reach Mia without being stopped. We made a plan that very night. Tomorrow morning, once we were sure Robert had left the country, David and I would go to the estate to get Mia. That night, my apartment with David sank into a heaviness unlike anything before. Every sound seemed to be pulled into the stillness of the truth that had just come to light. Mia sat curled up on the sofa, wrapped in a thin blanket, her hands shaking as she held a hot cup of tea, like it was the only warmth she could cling to in the middle of her panic. The living room lamp cast a soft golden glow on her pale face and swollen, tear-reddened eyes. She looked so small that I could not help the tightness rising in my chest. David stepped forward, then suddenly knelt right in front of Mia. His voice broke, a blend of remorse and anguish. "Mia, I am sorry. I did not know. Please tell me the truth. Why? Why would my father do that to you?" Mia shook her head again and again. Tears followed one another down her cheeks, falling into her tightly clasped hands. "No, I cannot say. He will kill me." I moved to sit beside her and gently took her hand, feeling the chill of her skin under my fingertips. I looked straight into her eyes and spoke very slowly, each word heavier than the air in the room. "Mia, we will protect you, but we need the truth so we can help. Look, David is here. He is his son, and he is on your side. You are not alone." Mia's eyes were frantic like a small bird that had just escaped a cage. She looked at me, then at David, but all I saw in that gaze was doubt and fear. "You do not understand. He will never let me go, because I am." David gripped her hand, his voice firm for the first time and filled with urgency. "Because you are who? Please, tell us." Mia buried her face in her hands. She broke into sobs like a child, the strangled hiccups making my chest feel squeezed tight. Then, through the sobs, her voice rose, halting but clear. "Because I am Elena's biological daughter, the woman who took all his money and ruined his life years ago. He found me. He said he would give me a better life than my mother had. But no, it was all a lie. He married me only to take revenge on my mother. He wanted her to suffer when she saw her only daughter belong to the enemy." The room fell completely still. David and I could not get a word out. Time seemed to stop, leaving only the faint clink of the teacup against its saucer in Mia's hands and her ragged breaths after each sob. David stepped back. He stood motionless, eyes wide, unable to hide the surge of terror rising in him. "My God, my father has lost his mind. How can anyone be that cruel?" I wrapped my arms around Mia and drew her close. She shivered in waves like someone burning with fever. I spoke softly, lowering my voice, trying to keep steady even as my heart felt like it was breaking apart. "This is horrifying. A revenge plot carried on for decades, and you are only an innocent victim." Mia buried her face in my shoulder, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. She forced herself to speak, each word tearing up from deep inside. "He made me call him Dad." Every time I said it, he laughed with satisfaction. He said my mother was a prostitute, that I was just like her. He did not hit me often, but his words did. They hurt 1,000 times more. I sat there in silence, unsure whether to hold her tighter or let go so she could breathe. Helplessness and fury twisted in my chest. Beside me, David lifted a hand to cover his face. I knew he was fighting back tears. In that dark night, inside 4 walls that should have felt safe, the truth cut through in the cruelest way, and I understood this was only the beginning. What we had just heard and seen would bring far worse to follow. But for now, one thing was clear. Mia needed to be saved. And this time, neither of us had the right to look away. The next morning, sunlight poured through the large living room window, but the air in the home stayed cold and heavy, as if the night refused to leave. Mia sat on the sofa, her face pale and her eyes ringed with shadows. Even after a hot shower and clean clothes, she looked like someone who had just survived a major storm. The thin blanket was pulled up to her chin, and her hands clutched it as if letting go would make her collapse. I sat to one side, and David sat across from us. None of us spoke for a long time. Then David was the first to break the silence, his voice steady, but weighted with pressure. "Mia, we cannot stay silent. We need to confront my father. We will stand with you." The moment he finished speaking, Mia jolted upright a little, then recoiled into herself. She shook her head over and over, her voice thin with fear. "No, I cannot. You do not know who he is. He will kill me. He said if I ever spoke, he would make me wish I were dead." I stepped closer and gently sat down beside her. "We will not let that happen. Mia, tell us everything. How did he lure you in? How could someone plan something so cruel?" She stayed silent. Then she lowered her head, closed her eyes for a long time as if fighting with herself. At first, he seemed like a savior. My mother and I lived under constant strain. So much strain that each morning when I woke up, I wished I were someone else, living somewhere else. My mother never hit me, but her control suffocated me day by day. She controlled everything from how I dressed to whom I befriended. Whenever I wore a skirt, she made me change into pants. Each time I painted my nails, she made me scrub it off, saying a good girl should not be flashy. Every morning, the moment I stepped out of my room, her eyes swept me from head to toe, and she would ask coolly if I was planning to seduce someone. I was not allowed close friends, especially boys. If she saw me smile at a text, she immediately demanded to check my phone. Once I powered it off to avoid her, and she stood at my door for an hour just to force me to turn it on so she could read every message. My extra classes, club activities, or outings with friends all had to be requested at least 3 days in advance, and each time I came home more than 15 minutes late, she called nonstop, and if I did not pick up, she would call the police or show up at my school to take me home. That was not concern. It was control disguised as motherly love. Family dinner was a courtroom where I was always the defendant. If I ate little, she said I had a death wish. If I ate a lot, she asked if I was pregnant. Every word I said was scrutinized, and every action was assigned a bad intent. I did not get to choose my major. She enrolled me without asking. I was not allowed to dream. She said dreams were for people with too much time. I was not allowed to decide anything in my own life. I felt that coming home each night was a form of torment. I feared the sound of my mother's footsteps in the hallway, feared the knock at my door, feared her gaze following me as I walked past with my head down. I only wished I could disappear from that house, even for a single day, to know what it felt like to breathe without being strangled by the eyes of the very person who gave birth to me. Then one day, Robert appeared. He said he was an old friend of my mother. I still remember that moment. We met in an upscale cafe. The light inside was warm, the scent of coffee rich, and the music soft. I sat across from him, an older man, neat and refined. He looked at me with a kind gaze, so different from everyone around me at the time. "You are Mia. You look so much like your mother when she was young." I heard you and your mother have some conflict. I feel sorry for you. At your age, you should be free to enjoy your life." He asked me many questions. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He simply listened. Then he began to buy me gifts: perfume, handbags, designer shoes. He told me I deserved those things. I believed it. I thought I had found someone who truly understood me, someone who cared for me like a spiritual father. Then he began telling stories about my mother, about her youth, about her past relationships, about things she had kept from me. He said my mother was a tough person who would sacrifice anything for money and status. I drifted farther and farther from my mother. I believed Robert was the only one who wanted to save me. He promised to give me a home, a place where I could be myself. I nodded. I thought I had found the light, but it was only a false lamp in a tunnel with no exit. Mia's voice dropped very low. She kept staring into the distance as if she were lost in a scene no one else could see. I did not dare to cut in. I knew that what she was about to tell us was the most frightening part. But right after the wedding, everything changed. He took me to the estate, a house too large and too quiet. He took my phone, saying it was for safety. He did not allow me to go out, did not allow me to call anyone. No one was allowed to visit. At first, he said it was to protect me. Robert's voice back then was very calm, but I had never heard anyone speak such frightening words with such a composed face. "It is safe here. Outside is very dangerous. Your mother could show up here at any time." And from then on, he began to torture me. She turned her face away, tears starting to fall again. I could not stop a sharp intake of breath. I raised a hand to cover my mouth, whispering like someone who had just heard the impossible. My God, so cruel. David sat beside me and gripped my hand. I could feel the tremor in his grip. His face was drained of color. His voice was hoarse. "Keep going, Mia. Keep going." Mia drew a deep breath, but could not hold back the sobs. She forced herself, her voice thinned by quick, uneven breaths. He told me about my mother's past. He said she was a swindler, a whore, that she betrayed him, took all his money, and ran. He said I was the result of that betrayal, that my mother's blood in me was as filthy as hers. I tried to say my mother was not like that. I told him to leave her out of it, but he laughed. He laughed every time I pushed back. She lowered her head, her hands clenched in her lap. The air in the room grew thick. I could only sit still, not daring to interrupt. He made me call him Dad. Each time I said it, he laughed with satisfaction and said, "Elena, do you see? Your daughter now calls me Dad." Her voice began to crack, tears spilling without control. He did not need to hit me much, but his words, the isolation, that look of contempt, it hurt 1,000 times more. He said he would keep me here until my mother went mad with missing her child, until she had to kneel and beg him. That was how he would take revenge. Then, as if she could no longer hold it in, Mia grabbed her head and cried out. Her voice was distorted by pain that had been bottled up for too long. "I am only a thing for his revenge. I am only a tool." I stood and went to her without hesitation and without another question. I held her tight, as if I were holding a younger sister pulled back from the brink. In that moment, the whole room fell into silence. No more words, no more resistance. Only the faint sound of ragged breaths and the chaotic beating of 3 hearts that had just stepped out of a shared nightmare. David and I looked at each other. We did not need to speak. We both understood. The man we had called father, the one we thought we could lean on, was in truth a monster wearing human skin. The next day, I still remember the moment the apartment door swung open and the woman standing there was Elena, Mia's mother. I had called her the night before to tell her. She came in hurriedly, dressed neatly, but her face showed worry and exhaustion. When her eyes fell on Mia's small, thin figure curled up on the sofa, she could not hold back. She rushed forward and all but fell to her knees as she wrapped her arms around Mia. Her voice shook through tears. "Mia, my daughter, I have been looking for you everywhere. How did you end up like this? Robert, what did he do to you?" But Mia did not hug her back. She startled, eyes wide with fear as if she were seeing a nightmare. She pushed her away and recoiled against the sofa, her hands gripping her shoulders. "Mom, no, please go. He will come. He will kill both of us." I stepped closer. Seeing Mia like that made my throat tighten, but I knew Elena needed to hear everything. "You want to know how he treated her? Fine. He locked her down. He broke her spirit. He made her call him Dad. All of it was only to get back at you." Elena was stunned. "Revenge on me?" No sooner had she spoken than the living room door sounded again. This time, it was not someone arriving out of longing. It was someone carrying the fire of vengeance. Robert walked in. His face was flushed red, his eyes blazing. He had just returned from a work trip to France, but none of his usual polish remained. Only rage on the brink of frenzy. "Elena, you still dare show your face here? You dare to face my daughter?" His shout tore through the air in the room. Mia screamed and ducked beneath the sofa, hands over her head. She shook in waves. David stepped forward at once, placing himself between his father and Elena. His voice was firm, though I knew a storm was rising inside him. "Dad, stop. We already know everything." Robert stared straight at David and let out a bitter laugh. He shoved his son aside as if pushing away a useless obstacle. "No. What do you know? Do you have any idea what this woman took from me?" He turned to Elena. His voice was no longer loud, but every word landed like a knife. "Back then, I loved her with everything I had. I trusted her and handed over all my assets so we could build a business together. But she cheated with a man named Mark. Then the two of them planned to clean out the money and run. A lifetime of savings turned to smoke. She did not only betray my love, she was a thief." Elena stood petrified. Her face drained, then went chalk white. She stammered one word at a time, barely able to meet his eyes. I was wrong." Hearing that, David spoke in anger. "Even if she was wrong, does that justify you taking it out on her daughter with such cruelty? Acting like that is no different from answering evil with more evil." But Robert did not let my husband finish. He ground out each word, his eyes burning with hatred. "Wrong. Does that single word cover it?" Because the story did not end there. He turned toward the small altar where David's mother's photo was placed. "After she ruined me and left me bankrupt, I forced myself to stand again. I rebuilt everything. I found happiness with your mother, a wonderful woman. Yet she still would not let me go. Out of jealousy, afraid your mother would urge me to dig up evidence of how she and her lover schemed to steal my assets years ago, she came to our home. But only a cruel person assumes everyone is as cruel as she is. Did your mother ever force me to demand back the money that woman stole? What did she say? She exposed my failures, called me a man dumped by a woman, a useless person. She lied about me. Called your mother a homewrecker who cut in on my relationship with her when she was the true betrayer. She knew your mother had a serious heart condition, but she still said it. She chose to say it, She killed my wife with her own mouth." His voice dropped as if he were shouting from a deep pit. She was not only a thief, she was a killer. I saw David turn to Elena. His face went white as paper. His lips trembled. The words cut out of him like a blade. "It was you. All these years. We thought my mother passed because of her illness. It turns out you were the culprit." I looked at Elena. She stood there like stone. No denial, no tears. She stared at the memorial photo of the woman she had driven to her death with words that had seemed harmless. I knew this was only the beginning of a real storm. A storm none of us could dodge anymore. Robert began to roar. His voice rolled through the room, breaking from his chest like a frenzy built up over years of being pressed down. "You took everything from me. Love, money, honor, and in the end, my good wife. I lived the days after that on hatred alone. I swore I would make you pay." He turned toward Mia, his eyes bloodshot and wet with tears. His trembling hand lifted toward her like a choking bill of indictment. And I found the perfect opening. "I knew you were a domineering mother. Mia was miserable under your control. I gave her a role to play, a grown man who understood her, a promise of deliverance, and she believed me. I did not marry her for love. I married her to possess her, to make you watch your only child call your enemy her husband, her father. I will take your only child from you." His voice broke open, full of pain and hatred. "Do you understand my pain from back then now?" David took a step forward. The anger had left his eyes, replaced by confusion and a deep disappointment. He looked straight at the man who had once been his model. His voice tightened. "But why? Why did my mother believe a complete stranger like her? My mother knew you had been deceived. How could something that old have shocked her to death?" Robert turned to David. His lips moved without sound for a moment. Then he bowed his head and looked at the floor. His voice dropped, fractured like his very figure. "Because she did not stop there. She also invented a story that I had a terrible contagious disease, and that the disease would be passed to the child in your mother's womb. At that time, your mother was pregnant with your younger sibling. That fear for the baby, that terror, that is what killed your mother. That was no longer a death. It was an indirect killing. It took 2 lives. No one said anything. The room grew thick, the air tightening as if there were no space left for a new breath. Then the crying broke out. Mia screamed and sobbed and collapsed onto the floor. "Stop! I am begging all of you. Stop! I do not want to be anyone's tool anymore." I could not stand still any longer. I rushed forward and held the girl tight, as if I were holding the last piece of humanity left in this room. I looked straight at Robert, and my voice tore through the darkness like a blade. "Everything stops now. Your revenge is no different from what Elena did. You are turning yourself into a monster, just like the one you hate." Robert stood frozen. For a moment, confusion flickered in his eyes as if he had been jolted awake from a trance. His gaze moved to Mia. She was still sobbing in my arms. Then suddenly, he stepped back. His feet faltered as if he had just seen something that terrified him to the core. I followed his eyes. Robert was staring into a corner of the room. No one else could see anything, but I knew he was staring at an apparition. The figure of a woman with sorrowful eyes and a disappointed face. She was David's mother, his wife who had passed away. Robert whispered through a tremor, his eyes fixed on that empty space. "You too. You are turning your back on me. everything was for you." He stood there, gasping as if he had run through a nightmare, but the nightmare had ended. Elena sank into a chair, her head bowed. Late tears ran down both cheeks and fell onto hands that had begun to tremble. David stood still. He no longer looked at his father the way he used to. There was no respect in his eyes, only sorrow for a man who had lost everything. And Mia, in the very center of it all, was like the still eye of a storm after it had passed. She was exhausted, no longer crying, no longer shaking. Only emptiness remained. The final wall of hatred had collapsed, and we stood in the rubble of it, with no one the victor. Only people who had lost themselves. The next morning, thin sunlight slipped through the curtains and cast a pale shadow across the floor. I stood still in the corner of the living room, watching tiny motes of dust drift in the light, my heart heavy as if the whole space were bowing to a sad ending. 3 plainclothes officers arrived very early. They did not say much, exchanged a few brief words with David, then walked toward Elena. The man who seemed to be the lead stood straight, his eyes serious. He spoke in an even, cool voice without any hint of aggression. "Mrs. Elena, we have sufficient grounds to charge you with the following crimes: fraud to appropriate assets and involuntary manslaughter. Based on Mr. Roberts' statement and the investigative evidence, please come with us." Elena sat motionless for a long moment. She did not resist and did not seem surprised. She appeared to have expected this, only sooner than she thought. She lowered her head and spoke in a faint voice like someone spent after a storm that lasted too long. "I understand. I will not deny it. This is all because of me." I turned to look at Mia. She stood a short distance away, neither stepping closer nor turning her back. Her face was calm, but 2 tracks of tears were sliding down her cheeks. Her voice rose, small and slow, but cutting. "Mom, why? Why could you do such things? I cannot understand it." Elena looked up, her tear-blurred eyes turned toward her daughter. She spoke almost in a whisper, with a plea and a pain that had no name. "Mia, my daughter. I am sorry. I am truly sorry." But Mia only shook her head. She did not sob or cry out. She simply turned away and walked out of her mother's line of sight, one slow step at a time. "It is too late, Mom. Far too late." I gripped David's hand. Neither of us spoke. We watched in silence as the scene unfolded before us. But I knew this was not all. Only a few minutes later, the door opened again. A team of medical staff in white entered. They carried files, their faces expressionless. One of them, apparently the lead physician, stepped toward Robert. Robert still sat on the sofa, his eyes fixed on a single spot on the bare wall. He had not spoken since waking that morning. He did not eat and did not respond. The doctor spoke, courteous but firm. "Mr. Robert, we assess that your current mental health is unstable and potentially dangerous. Your family has agreed. We will take you to a specialized center for treatment." Robert did not lift his head. He remained as still as a statue. Only his lips moved slightly, a sentence slipping out from somewhere deep in his mind. "Revenge. I have taken my revenge. But why? So empty." David stood beside me. As the medical staff helped his father to his feet, I felt his hand tighten. His voice broke with sorrow. "Dad, why did it have to come to this?" I did not know what to say. I only squeezed his hand and whispered softly in his ear. "There is no other way, love. This is the end that hatred dragged them to." In that moment, I did not see the man being taken away as an enemy. He was only a shadow, a hollow person after burning out his life force on rage. And Elena, led away in silence, stepped as if she were burying herself under the weight of her own guilt. Only we remained, standing in the quiet apartment, with the pale sunlight outside, unable to warm a morning made bleak by justice and truth. The living room, after the chaos of the morning, was now so still that the ticking of the wall clock sounded with every beat. Only David, Mia, and I sat together. The silence no longer felt heavy as in the days before, but carried a sense of release, like when a heavy stone has just been lifted off the chest. Mia sat curled on the edge of the chair, a cup of tea gone cold in her hand. She looked down at the table, then gently wiped the tear tracks still on her cheeks. Her voice was small but firm. "Sister Luna, Brother David, thank you for saving me, but I cannot stay here anymore. I cannot look at anything connected to those two people. I want to start over somewhere far away." I nodded, moved to sit beside her, and gently held that ice-cold hand. I knew that decision was necessary and right. A wounded soul cannot heal while living among shattered memories. "I understand. David and I will help you find a small apartment in a quieter place, and I will help you apply for a suitable job. You have to be strong." David came closer too, set a hand on Mia's shoulder, and nodded. "That is right. You still have your whole future ahead of you. Do not let this dark past pull you down." A week later, we moved Mia into her new place. It was a small but bright apartment in a quiet neighborhood in Pasadena. That afternoon, David and I helped Mia tidy up, hang curtains, and place a few small planters on the balcony. For the first time in days, I saw Mia smile. The smile was no longer timid and no longer afraid. "The room is beautiful. I am truly grateful to you both. Because of you, I finally know what a real family feels like." I hugged her. The embrace was light but tight. I could hear the steady heartbeat of someone who had just escaped a nightmare. "Keep going, dear. Treat this as a new beginning. David and I are always here if you need us." David stood behind us, folded the blankets and pillows, then turned back to Mia with a gentle look. "Once you are settled, keep in touch. We will always be waiting to hear from you." A few days later, sunset settled over Los Angeles as usual. David and I sat together on the balcony of our apartment, the last light turning the sky gold and softening every color. David took my hand and looked toward the horizon. He sighed, his voice quiet but heavy with thought. "Is it really over?" Such a heartbreaking end. I rested my head on his shoulder and let the breeze move through my hair, my eyes on the fading light. My voice grew low, each word clear. "Not exactly the end. It is the end of a tragedy, but the beginning of our peace. We have witnessed the terrible destruction of hatred. It has destroyed two families." David nodded. His eyes looked far away, but I knew his thoughts were very close. "Yes, Dad and Elena. They let hatred turn them into monsters. And in the end, both lost everything." I turned and looked straight into his eyes. My voice was steady, gentle without being weak. "That is why we must cherish what we have. Cherish this small home, cherish love and honesty. Never let those negative feelings creep into our family." David tightened his grip on my hand. He lowered his head and placed a light kiss on my forehead, then whispered, "I promise. Together we will build a different future. A future without hatred." We sat there for a long time, hand in hand, without another word. The city lights came on before us. The glittering lights stretched out like stars fallen to earth. I knew it was not an ending, but the beginning of a new life that we would go on writing together with love. The end of this story is not only a wake-up call about the cruelty of hatred, but also a reminder of the cost of wounds left unhealed. When people let the past lead them, they can become the very thing they once despised. Robert and Elena were both victims of their own wrong choices. But the one who suffered the deepest wounds was Mia, a girl who had never been given a real chance to live. Fortunately, she stepped out of the darkness in time and found a new light in her life thanks to the kindness and resolve of those who dared to say no to silence. I hope that after hearing this story, you will reflect on how hatred can seep into every corner of life, and how the only way to break that cycle is through compassion, understanding, and sincere love. If you found this story worth pondering, please share your thoughts in a comment, hit like to show your support, and subscribe to Revenge Diary to follow more moving and meaningful stories. Thank you for listening all the way to the end.